My name is Emery, and today we are going to put the characters from How I Met Your Mother, my favorite TV show, into the world of Baldur's Gate. So let's jump in. I think Gale fits Ted the most. He thinks himself a connoisseur of higher quality literature, wine, languages, and then as we pick up the other characters, I'm going to adjust them to match the characters that I think are the best fit. So obviously, Gale is human, and we're not going to mess with that. For class, Ted is an architect. He views himself as an artist. He is very much a flirt. So I think I'm going to go with Bard. For cantrips, let's see. Friends, I think, makes a lot of sense. He definitely is very social. Prestidigitation. It's good for people who are a little bit of a show-off, so Ted might be a good fit for that. I think I'm going to go with Prestidigitation, which is one of the modded cantrips, and I have not played with that very much, so we'll see how useful that ends up being. For his starting spells, I'm just going to close out all of these. Should I go with what's useful or what makes the most sense? Because there's a lot of options here. And I'm trying to think of what Ted would be the best at. Not animal friendship. Although he does love dogs. So maybe speak with animals, because there is a dog later in the game, light spoilers, and I think Ted, being a dog person, would mesh very well with the dog. Feather Fall, honestly just because that's a very useful spell. Earth Tremor, because that's a fun one. And I don't know, my gut says Dissonant Whispers. I don't know if I can really explain that one. For his starting instrument, what did he play in that episode where he was in the band? Ted is one of the characters playing a guitar, and obviously the closest thing we've got here is the lute, so we're going to go with lute. For background, Gale's background is set as Sage, which Ted totally makes sense. Mr. Encyclopedia. And let's see, will it let us edit the appearance? It will! Thank you, mods. Okay, so let's see which face makes the most sense for Ted. Now, let's see. He's got a very sharp nose, a gentle jawline. He doesn't have much in the way of lips. He's got some pretty bushy eyebrows. See, the thing is, I think Gale's face makes the most sense for Ted. Comparing the jawline, the nose, the eyebrows. I'm going to stick with the standard Gale. His skin tone, I think, is a little too pale. We're going to give him just a little bit more sun. We're going to go with neutral 3. Confirm. Eyes. We do need to change Ted's eyes. He's got brown eyes, so let's look at our brown options. I'm leaning towards brown 4. It's got a little more richness to the color, and I think that fits Ted, or rather Josh Radnor. Hair, let's see, we've got a lot of modded options in here, but I found that a lot of the mod options are geared more towards standard femme presentations. We have a lot of textured hair, which Ted does not have. What about this one? No, nope. Not enough on the sides. Ted does not have a side shape going. He's got more of a tousled look, less slicked back than that. He doesn't have a middle part. He definitely, if there's a part on Ted, it's definitely a side part. Ooh. It's got a little bit more of a flourish than Ted's standard look, but I think that one might be a contender. See, and that one's too short. Let's see, we're getting down into the standard styles. That one could work. Again, we have a lot of styles that are more traditionally feminine, and what we're looking for here is classic 2005 relatable dude. It's a little harder to create these contemporary characters in a game specifically designed to be a fantasy world, but we're going to make it work. I think our top contenders are this, which looks a little sillier upon second glance, and this one. I think this one's probably our closest bet. His brown is almost black, so it looks like the highlights on this cut are more undertoned. Let's try going back to that other look. What if we go black-brown? And tone down those highlights a little bit more. I think we're getting there. Of course, this being Gale, he does have the earring. Oh well, I guess Ted's just gonna have a piercing. I think we've got a decent Ted. Should we do full name? I think we should. I think Ted Mosby is an excellent name for introductions. Who should we make the Guardian look like? Let's make Future Ted. Future Ted, male, voice 2. Oh yes, we can still use Gale's face. No scarring, but we do need to add some maturity. Maybe we should give him just a little bit of weathering in the skin tone. A little more sun as he's gotten older. And then maybe just enough freckles to look like age spots. I believe, let's look up what future Ted looks like. He's got some graying, and it is, okay, it's a little more combed, a little more styled. So I think there's one down here that's a little less messy, a little more controlled. There we go, that's perfect. Now, hair color. We had the black-brown. Future Ted does have a fairly significant amount of gray. So we're going to add some graying. And then Future Ted still is also clean-shaven, so we're going to need to do that. Alright. I think we have our Future Ted. Venture forth. Alright, here we go. We've got Ted waking up on the Nautiloid. Ted Mosby. Now, I'll be interested to see, I know when you play Gale's origin story, you get a lot of interaction with his Tressum, but I don't know, considering all of the modifications and customization that we've made, if that's going to remain true. We'll find out. Of course, we want to make sure we always loot the bodies.
Dead. Serves you right for a
I've never heard that line. I've never actually played Gale's Origin. I don't do well with the Origin runs. I get bored of them very easily, and I prefer the roleplay of being my own character. But in this case, we're not trying to emulate Gale. We are emulating Mr. Ted Mosby. I have played the Lae'zel Origin run. I made it 90 minutes in before I realized that roleplaying her as truthfully as possible always resulted with her dying very quickly. And I tried... who else did I try? I tried Astarion, but I felt weird playing him when generally I prefer to romance him. And who else? I've heard that Will's Origin run is a good one. If you've played any of the Origin runs, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know the controls for this game throw a lot of new players off, and I remember when I first started playing just how strange and unfamiliar and unnatural the controls felt. I now have, I don't know, almost 900 hours in this game. It's like second nature. I started modding at about the 750 hour mark, but I tried the WASD controls and the more free-roaming camera. I hated it. I couldn't get used to it. I am so familiar with this system.
Yes, you've come to save us from this place. From this place you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
Please. Before they return. They return.
I think Ted is a very curious man. I think he's going to be asking questions.
The enemy. So many enemies. A newborn. Born new from this husk.
You realize you're talking to an intellect devourer, a minion of the mind flayers who abducted you.
Suddenly, this is giving me very Cockamouse vibes. And on the one hand, when they introduced the Cockamouse character in How I Met Your Mother, obviously the gang was very ruffled and did everything they could to catch or kill it. However, when Ted encountered the Cockamouse later at the... oh gosh, what's the hotel called? The Arcadian. He was very proud of it for surviving and having babies and finding love. I do really love Us. I think Us is just the cutest little thing. I've seen plushies sold. I want one so bad, but that is a purchase that I cannot justify. And from a practical perspective, it's always good to have Us on your team. Now, I am going to be changing each of the origin characters to How I Met Your Mother characters, but we have to get through the tutorial and into camp before I have the opportunity to do that. And they are ready to level up, and we get a new spell. Let's see, I think heroism makes a lot of sense because Ted seems to think of himself very highly, likes to think of himself as the hero, and from a literary perspective, is technically the hero of our story. Those of you who have played Baldur's Gate before might recognize that the leveling is going significantly faster than usual, and that is because I do have a mod installed. I've played the game so many times that leveling the first couple of levels, it just gets tedious. So to avoid that, I do have that mod installed. Should we do multi-classing? Nah. Subclass. We've got College of Glamour, College of Lore, College of Swords, and then College of Valor. I think Ted would want to be a member of the College of Swords. I think the character more accurately fits in the College of Lore. Ooh. You know what? This one looks more fun, so I'm gonna go with College of Swords. Fighting style. Oh, it has to be dueling. I mean, just think about the sword fights in the show. Lae'zel is going to be our Robin Scherbatsky. I definitely think that fighter honestly makes sense for Robin, especially given her upbringing. I think that Robin's upbringing and approach to problems, Battle Master makes the most sense, especially given her history at military camp for boys. I definitely don't think she would be very evasive, and there will be options to add a few more of these later, but right now I think riposte and disarming are my favorite, and pushing just makes sense for Robin. I don't think Ted would just abandon someone, he would absolutely commit to the opportunity to be a hero, so we're gonna look around. What do we have here?
Dazed woman is trapped inside the pod. She doesn't notice you.
Oh, and I do have mods that add clothing and cats to what's called the tutorial chest, which is this chest in this room. So I'm going to take all of those, and we will use them later to customize our characters' outfits. While we're in here, let's see what this is.
As you place your hand on the pod, you hear something. A presence connected to the pod, commanding the person inside to change.
Alright, let's get turned around. We found a rune that looks like it should fit in the socket. Man, I am rolling like a champ today. Nat 20. Nice. Let's get going. I'm Ted Mosby. Now, this one is the character that I think I struggled with matching up the most, but honestly, by virtue of elimination with the character options that we had to work with, I am casting Shadowheart as Lily. I do think we might leave her as a cleric. We'll have to review later. But for now, we're just going to change some of her prepared spells. Sanctuary is one of the most useful spells I think a cleric has. At least in Baldur's Gate. I have played 5e Dungeons & Dragons, but I am not as familiar with the rules, the spells, the races, as I am with the rules and spells of Baldur's Gate. I love us. Just so cute. Cute little brain on legs. Alright, Mr. Ted Mosby. See what you got. That did not do as much damage as I hoped. Lae'zel coming in clutch. How does the lieutenant not have any loot? Okay, one more spell. Detect Thoughts is useful, and there is a lot of mental conversations in the show, and I think this fits that, so I'm gonna go with Detect Thoughts. Cantrips. Let's see. For Lily, we think Lily, with her very impassioned speeches and life advice, Word of Radiance makes a lot of sense. I want to finally customize Shadowheart into Lily now that we have that option available. Okay, her hair changes a lot throughout the season, so let's go with 2005, season 1. She looks so young. Well, let's start with the hair, because that tends to frame the face for me, and that helps the vision come together. I might be a little picky here. We've got some more choices to go through.
One eternity later.
Yeah, I like that. What color are Lily Aldrin's eyes? She's got sort of a dark ring around... Oh, well, just like that. That is perfect. Dark ring around the hazel eyes. Okay, now, facial structure. She's got a very round face with a very straight nose and slightly arched eyebrows. Honestly, I think the standard Shadowheart face might work really well. Yeah, I really think this suits Lily. Maybe some slightly warmer skin. I think that's the one. And as ginger as she is, I don't think Lily has any freckles. But I do think Lily would wear some nice earrings. And then for the makeup, again, so many different styles throughout the run of the show. But I think something subtle. And she definitely has some gloss. Alright, we've got our makeup, we've got our hair. Lily Aldrin. You know, ironically, she looks a lot like me. But I've gotten that before. It's a redhead thing, honestly. The redheads tend to have very similar skin tones and genetics. So I can never date a redhead. They look too much like me. It's really hard to envision Lily's wardrobe in a fantasy setting. You know, this honestly reminds me a little bit of the vibe of Allison Hannigan's gay goth vampire character in Buffy. What do we think? What would you put her in? And later in the game, I can find dyes, and I think once I can mess around with the colors of the outfit, I can get a little more custom. And that is our first session of How I Met Your Mother's characters in Baldur's Gate. Tune in next time to pick up some more members of the gang. Thank you for watching!